I call the meeting to order. Have we properly posted?
Meeting has been posted according to law.
All right, roll call.
President Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Holm.
Here.
Trustee Nugent. Here. Trustee Renucci.
Here.
Trustee Smalley.
Here.
Trustee Wisniewski.
He's excused. Okay, citizen participation. Per Village Resolution 2017-01, anyone wishing to address the village board during citizen participation will be allowed 5 minutes. Your subject must specifically relate to matters under the jurisdiction of the village board, whether on the agenda or not. The village board should not engage in a discussion regarding comments because it was not part of the publicly noticed agenda. Upon conclusion of the citizen participation segment, members of the audience are not allowed further comment unless they're participating in a public hearing or is specifically allowed by a majority vote of the village board due to involvement in an agenda item. I think pretty much everybody's here for an agenda item, so. Going once, going twice. Okay, I'll close citizen participation. Move on to consent agenda, one motion and a second. We'll approve all the following items. Any item may be pulled from the list and voted on separately.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
I have questions on items 3, 4, and 7.
Go for it.
And I guess the first question I had, and I have to apologize, is I'm reading some of this stuff, and as opposed to what we used to get, there's a lot of stuff blacked out on these sheets now. Is there a reason for that?
Personally identifiable information.
I'm sorry?
It's personal information on those folks.
So like mailing address and things like that.
Okay, I guess the other question was with the number 7, with the youth baseball. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's great, and I'd like to see our stuff get used like that. The only question I had is there's some, the compliance of, maybe I'm wrong or I misread it. Are some of these groups supposed to maintain the ball field? Are they supposed to work on the ball field?
How about now? There we go. That's really what this agreement identifies, right? So some groups do and some groups do not. This specific group, this agreement identifies what their responsibilities are and what village responsibilities are,
Okay, I guess
and sets the fees.
and is DPW responsible then to oversee the compliance for the village?
Park and Rec oversees it, and then, yes, obviously DPW oversees Park and Rec.
Okay, so if something doesn't get done, it comes back to,
Yes.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, miscellaneous business. Consider updated schedule for 2954 Main Street project and future reporting frequency. Vic?
Good evening. So we are a little bit behind from where we had initially thought we'd be at this point. The main thing that has kind of held us back was the columns in the front of the house that we had to tear down and build back up. There was a lot of engineering that went into that, a lot of figuring things out. And the biggest thing was with the scaffolding up there, we couldn't get excavators in the back to dig the foundation for the rear addition. So then it was just bad weather after bad weather once we finally got the foundation dug. We're hoping to finally get that poured in the next warm area that we have in the next coming week. Once we've got that poured, we can get back to work. But we're kind of looking at end of July, maybe mid-August for a completion date at this point. You can kind of see on the scope that we've got there, we're going to be hopefully wrapping up framing and everything on the rear addition towards the end of, or middle of spring, and then moving on to the interior finishes after that.
So you think you'll be done then with interior, exterior, everything by the end of August?
Yeah, that's the,
You'll be
that's the
done.
goal. Yep.
Except for maybe the landscaping out front because of
Exactly, yeah.
vehicles?
Yeah, we're gonna have to make some concessions just on budget and things like that. We're gonna be scaling back a couple of things. The front porch is one of them. We're gonna end up having to do something kind of temporary for the time being until we can raise a little bit more funds to get a covered porch put on. We put probably $35,000-$40,000 into just shoring up the front of the house, and that was basically our entire budget for the front porch, so.
Are you planning on reinstalling the brick that was taken off the building?
Yes, so the brick that was taken off, we have it all stored on site under tarps. We spent months this summer chipping mortar off of it. We've got a mason in line to replace that on the front of the house. So we're not going to be doing it everywhere, but the whole front of the house is going to be re-bricked. Like I said, because we're going to have to do some sort of a temporary porch on the front, it's going to have some goofiness because we don't have enough of the face brick to do every portion of it. So there will be a band across the front that's going to be concrete brick where the roof is going to go over the covered porch, but it may be, a year before we get that actually built.
Because I really did like the fact that we were going to keep that look of the brick.
Yep.
And those older turn of the
Yep.
century, 1920s homes. Are you going to have enough brick to maybe just make a return around the front so that you can
Yeah,
then
so
get?
we're going to be turning around the front on the first floor is the plan, and then potentially a little bit on like a foot or so onto the second floor. But we didn't have a ton of brick left over by the time everything was done. A lot of it was pretty severely damaged, and we don't have, it's not really feasible to find a matching brick at this point. So we're looking at other options, potentially finding the closest match, but it's kind of up in the air at this point.
Did you try Janesville?
I have not.
Janesville brick, try them.
I will give them a call.
Any other questions? So when do we think next report? It looks like on your schedule here, you're moving from exterior to interior about March, April, May. So
Yep.
we want to maybe shoot for the first meeting in May. Does that sound good? Okay, does that work?
Perfect.
Okay. All right, we'll see you then. Good
Excellent.
luck
Thank
with
you.
the spring weather.
Thanks.
All right, item 2, consider fund balance designations for 2024 audit. Eileen, you want to walk us through your memo?
So each year, we review the fund balance designations. This is part of our audit process. And essentially what this is reserves, and then we designate the purpose for the reserves. The village has gotten high marks in our bond ratings because of the way we've managed our reserves and used them for capital projects and set aside for numerous years. The general fund balance decreased by $95,000 from 2023 to the end of 2024, but that decrease is attributed to a transfer that we did of those surplus funds to capital projects. And then we also had designated $50,000 to the CDA fund for facade grants and other projects. The CDA fund we haven't been levying for, we've been utilizing when we have surplus funds available for that purpose. In addition, the village had approximately $151,000 general fund operating surplus in '24. So that's why that decrease was less than the actual transfers we had done. That operating surplus is attributed to excess revenues over what we had budgeted. Per our financial policy, we keep 35% a minimum of 35% of our current year operating budget in the general fund for operating expenses, which is that last line in the fund balance designation sheet. We will exceed that this year. We'll be over that 35% threshold if we leave things as I've designated them. So my recommendations in the general fund were to add $40,000 to the CDA fund. That is reflected on the sheet. That would bring it back up to $200,000 available to the CDA for various projects and facade grants. And then I also did designate $40,000 for administration wages that I'm anticipating will be over budget. That is due to the overlap in the clerk's position and payout of unused paid time off at retirement. That will assist with paying that amount if we don't have an operating surplus in 2025. If we have an operating surplus, we will not utilize those funds. And then I'm also recommending, as I mentioned, leaving that excess over the 35% in undesignated in the general fund this year. And if we have another operational surplus again next year, I'd recommend doing another project to the capital projects fund so we can help fund some of our capital projects. Our capital projects fund decreased by $627,594. A large portion of that was due to the renovations and the HVAC systems that we installed in this building. We had been reserving funds for that project for numerous years. So although that appears negative, that's a very positive thing because we were able to do that project with reserve funds we had set aside.
And we'd also been waiting approximately 12 to 14 years to get that done, too.
Yes, yes. So that was a win in numerous ways. Other edits I did to the sheet, I just removed some smaller designations that Jason and I had discussed that we didn't feel would be used in the near future. They were very small amounts. I added any budgeted accumulating funds. As the board probably recalls, we do budget for certain things, like I budget for future IT expenses, and Jeremy budgets for things for the police department over a series of years, so that we're not budgeting for large expenses in the years we're having to make those large expenditures. So I just accounted for all those things in that sheet. For recommendations, there are two questions I have for the board. If we look at that fund balance sheet, I have them noted in red. There's things that we've had designated for numerous years that really aren't for specific things. At one point, a board had recommended that we budget for a community service project from survey results. I think the Park and Rec board was doing a survey at the time. So we have 194,000 in there, and I think, since that time, we've done numerous projects, and we just haven't touched those funds, so I'm wondering if we want to undesignate those. We also have a community beautification fund. That was from a reserve license that had been paid for. We had put it in there thinking we'd do something on the square, but again, we've done numerous projects on the square and just haven't touched that. We've used other funds, and we haven't been putting other reserve license purchases in that fund. So I thought maybe we should just undesignate them and put them into future capital projects.
Is there anything in there or any thought of things that can be done before we make some kind of substantial move with those funds? Like, for instance, I remember there was talk of a splash pad for the Park and Rec. I also know DPW talked about a salt shed. And I also know that we have to kind of update the Christmas decorations and some other stuff. And again, I'm not sure if these funds would work for that or if they have to be from different sources or whatever. I'm just asking these questions.
So if we put them in future capital projects, we have the ability to designate it for any of that in the future. We can, as part of our budget process, we do budget for certain projects to come from fund balance, but because of the designation, it hasn't been utilized because it's designated for this community service project. And I didn't feel, or community, yeah, it says community service project, excuse me. I didn't feel right about just removing that since that was a prior board direction.
So I'm in agreement of reallocating those designations, given our capital forecast challenges that we have. I think on page 1 of your memo for the extra balance for the surplus, I agree with the administration wage piece. We know that that's going to happen, so we should have that there. And I agree with leaving in the general fund. One of our, feedback pieces from Ellers is continued to look at possibly higher than 35%. I don't know what this would put us at what percentage this would put us at. Do you know off the top of your head? Okay.
Sorry.
So, we could chip away at that. I'm I'm a little hesitant on the first one, the 40,000 of the CDA, just because we already have that balance and we don't have, I guess we don't have this year's applications. Maybe we hold that one until we see what applications we have come in.
So what we could do is just leave that in the general, which is perfectly fine, but I do need to get a finalized sheet to the auditors for the audit report. So whatever we do here is not going to change for the audit report.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. So I guess my preference would be leave the 40 with the other 130, so I guess 170, and then designate the other 40 there for administration wages, and then release the fund designations on the capital side and move those to undesignated capital. And then when we'll look at capital project prioritization, which I think you all are starting next month or April. I think Jason's got no shortage of capital projects he could find a use for these. It never ends. Thoughts on those recommendations?
Makes sense.
So I'll make a motion then to, sorry, I lost my place here. I'll make a motion to designate 40,000 for the administration wages anticipated to be over budget in the general fund in 2025 and leave 170,721 in the general fund. We may revisit for the CDA facade in the future, and to undesignate on the capital fund balance for community service park project from survey results and community beautification fund. All right, questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 3, proposal for replacement of Highway 20 lift station pumps. Oh, Tom. This is Tom's, okay. Oh, that's right, it says from Tom, so I should have seen that.
Hello. 40, how you doing? All right, so you got the background there. Highway 20 lift station, Jason was at 95 they built that? Mid-90s, yeah, I think 95 sounds right. So the pumps that are currently in there are shot, and they're worn beyond repair, or at least an economical or feasible repair. So the proposal here is to remove those pumps, replace them with the same type of pump that we have at all of our existing lift stations. And then there's a quote for the installation, and there's a little bit of piping modifications that have to be done for that to happen. So.
I would just add, the reason that they're worn is because they were a pump that was constructed, my guess is they were a less expensive pump, and they're not a pump that's serviceable. They don't, in other words, they don't have a replaceable wear ring is what it comes down to. So that's
This station was put in when they did TIF 2.
correct.
When they picked up, they were doing Scott, and then Ken Witt also got Chapman's oil put in, and then the sanitary district 2 empties into that too, does it not?
It does not. There's a line that comes up ES by Quick Trip there. That's an independent line of the previous TID 2.
I thought that crossed 20 and went down that way.
It does not.
I'm assuming this pump will be adequate should there be any expansions at the airport and we want to extend service there?
Yes.
Okay.
And this style of pump too allows for some more adaptability by changing the impeller or the motor size, so.
Could you clarify the two bids that we got here, because I don't see any correlation here.
Okay, so the bid from LW Allen, that is the purchasing of the pumps. And then the bid from Saba would be the installation of the pumps.
I see.
Does that answer that?
Yeah, I just have to add the two numbers together then to get the total cost.
Yep.
Plus the shipping, a little bit of shipping in there.
I'll make a motion to approve the Highway 20 pump replacement project for $82,448.31.
Second.
All right, questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Oops. All right, item 4, consider amendment to design contract for Honey Creek Nature Area. Jason?
Okay, so Lynch has been doing a back and forth with the Park and Rec Committee regarding the enhancements to the Honey Creek Nature Area, the former Mill Pond area. Whereas, you know, we're looking to enhance it, make it almost like a trailhead type situation, add a parking lot, and also add some trails around the pond adjacent to the former impoundment and what's now Honey Creek. And one of the things that was identified during that back and forth is Park and Rec would like to see access to the water from Highway G or in the area of the bridge. Where if you remember, prior to the removal of the dam, there was a small wooden bridge there that people were able to traverse the waterway and get, in a more direct manner, get to the nature area. And so in doing so, in designing that, it has triggered a wetland delineation because there's some wetlands adjacent to Highway G that Lynch wants to design something to go over that to get back into that park. So that's why this wasn't part of the initial proposal from Lynch to do this work, because we didn't know we needed to do it until design triggered it. And so the idea with this pathway is you wouldn't have to walk all the way around by the pond to get, back out to Honey Creek. It would be almost like a shortcut, hoping that more people would utilize the area.
$75,000 seems like an awful lot of money for a shortcut.
So the amendment, that includes, what you're looking at is the original design, which we approved. Now, this is the $10,000 and change amendment is what we're looking to approve tonight
Okay.
for the study and permitting.
We should add that 10,000, the rest of the design project is being funded through the ARPA funds. The 10,000 would need to come from fund balance, correct?
That's correct.
So if the board approves it, I would like them to approve it being taken from fund balance as well.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract amendment for $10,469.60, bringing the total to $74,171.60 being paid for by fund balance.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, item 5, consider Plan Commission suggestion regarding angle parking on Clark Street. We have no packet materials, but Jason looks like he was able to mock something up on short notice, that we have some physical handouts.
Actually, I contacted Tim after last week's Planning Commission meeting, and he sent a surveyor out prior to the snow that we received, and they shot some points and created the exhibit in front of you. And so basically what it proves here is that it works on paper. So what this does is it essentially adds 5 parking stalls to what we have today by taking the west side of Clark Street and making that angle parking. And then what we would have to do to make this work, the east side of Clark Street from Main Street to Union would have to be no parking. There just isn't room for 2 lanes of traffic and the angle parking on the west side.
And it would still remain, it would be one-way or it'd be two-way?
No, it would still be 2-way.
Okay.
Do you have that other picture? So Tim made it work on paper, and today myself and a couple staff members just took some vehicles up there to see what it really looks like in real life. And we were able, I parked my pickup truck there, and then there's 2 lanes of traffic The truck on the right there is actually pretty close to the curb, and I think that there's plenty of room for that to be further west or left, if you will. But I feel there's definitely room for 2 lanes of traffic there to make that happen. Now, this is closer to Main Street, where Clark Street actually does get wider there by the building. There's a parking area that jets out a little bit on the east side of the road. Now, in order for this to work, that parking would have to go away. There really could be no parking on the east side at all.
Has anybody talked to the businesses on the east side?
Nope.
Yeah.
Will-
Go ahead.
Will there be sidewalks, you're going to paint those yellow and put up no parking signs on that side?
So, yeah, we would have to, this is going to be a similar situation to what's across the street from Taylor's on South Division between the square and Austin Street. It's the exact same layout. This area is actually wider than that. But yes, if this were to move forward, essentially it would be doing it with striping. There wouldn't really be any other improvements made. It would just simply be painting stalls in, and then putting a couple of no parking signs on the east side, probably having to paint that entire curb over there yellow just to keep people from parking there. I suspect there may be an ordinance change necessary. I haven't looked at any of that. Didn't want to do any more research on it before showing it to you guys, so just looking for some direction. Obviously, I think we'll want to talk to some neighbors around there to get everybody's feeling about this, because this could be potentially a pretty big change.
Yeah, it'd probably be a public hearing, I'm guessing, right?
I would think that probably would be appropriate in this situation.
The other thing I noticed too is, so you have a handicap stall all the way at the end by Union. Would you put a handicap stall all the way down by Main Street as well?
So we did put the one on the far end, on the far north end there, just because it's adjacent to a ramp. Because as I've showed here, there's no other ramps in the area. I mean, you could potentially cut in another ramp somewhere in the middle, but you really want ramp access for a handicap spot, and that was just the easiest to do it in this situation.
The only reason I bring it up is because someday when the former Chinook reopens, hopefully, knock on wood, that those stalls are going to be used, so it might be something to put in place for the traffic that runs through there.
And it certainly could.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do an ordinance change, you have to do a public hearing. I mean, guys, what are our thoughts about, because this came from Plan Commission, we were just making sure that the engineering was going to work for this, that this should just go back through Plan Commission and do an ordinance and public hearing change that way.
I think this is a great idea. I don't think it's anything different than Union behind the liquor store and 2894. I think it's very similar to that. It looks like about the same spacing to me when I looked at it today on the map. I think it's a great idea because I think we do have a parking issue, and this would really bring some additional spaces to not only to the square but the surrounding businesses.
Could you put that back up? Oh, there you go, thank you. Jason, we're talking about a second ramp, and I think, the way I'm looking, right where it says Clark Street, if you look just to the bottom right, there's that 4-foot mark, right there where the trees are. And it looks like there's an opening right there. You could almost put a handicap ramp right in there, couldn't you, on the sidewalk?
Yeah, we'd have to look at it. I'm not sure. I know there's an additional driveway approach in there that's not being utilized, but I don't know if it meets ADA parameters. And if you put it
Whatever's
in
done, the handicap ramp would have to be put in according to code.
That's correct. And if you put it in the middle like that, you're going to lose a parking stall by doing that, because you need the cross-hatched area.
There's no parking stall mark there now, though.
I'm just saying, if you were going to put the handicap spot in the middle,
I see
you
what
would
you're
lose
saying.
you would lose a parking stall to the right of the. Yeah, exactly.
Right, but no, I was thinking about using a stall next to the crosshatch and put the handicap access on the others, on the on the other side of the.
You're saying on the Main Street side of it versus the Union?
No,
Street
I'm saying
side?
on the Union side of that crosshatch.
So let's,
But that's what I'm just saying,
so our ask is is there a way for you and Lynch to figure out, is there a way to get a handicap stall closer to Main Street? And like you said, you can we think it might work on paper, but, you know, if we go forward with this, that would be, I guess, the one request. And I know we're going to have to put a sign there, and, you know, that person in that house there may not want, you know, that sign there, but, you know, or any of this parking, you know, so we'll reach out to the businesses. One question, I don't know if in your ad hoc test there with the trucks, do you think that there's enough room for the big trucks that Alex has in his garage there?
You know, Tim might be able to put some turning movements on that. I don't know the answer to that without, I guess, maybe having a conversation with Alex as well. Because I'm not sure what he is pulling in or out of there.
And I'm not either.
Fire trucks.
Yeah.
Why, is he-
Believe
is
it
he-
or not, fire trucks.
Is he buying ours? So, yeah, I think it's probably as we go forward with this and you talk to the businesses and the homeowners there, that definitely talk with Alex about that. Just because he's got the largest equipment that's going to come through. Everybody else is going to be the size of the vehicles at the largest of what you guys demonstrated.
Can you, is it possible also, if there is an issue, just to do the side towards Union Street versus adding in those 8 extra spots across from Alex's building?
So you're saying like go from the tree, go north with the angle parking and yeah, I mean, obviously you just get less stalls then, right? It's,
You get less stalls. I think it still addresses the problem. You get less stalls. The only thing that I'd be concerned with is you're still 2 lanes of traffic there. So you might have a potential issue, but if you put, there's, people park on that side anyways, across from Alex's building right there. So eventually people get used to the way of traffic, the traffic flow through there.
I think if you were to do that, we would have to reevaluate because again, right, the way it is on paper, we're only gaining 5 spots, right? And so if we eliminate parking on the opposite side, we may, you know, all of a sudden there may not be much value to doing anything. So,
Understood.
Like Jason said, we'll make sure we have to contact everybody on the other side of that street.
Alex
Let it-
just puts a door
Let
on
them
the
know
other
what's
side.
going on.
All right, so, sorry, go ahead.
so would you want to see a public hearing? I mean, or almost maybe like a committee of the whole discussion? You know, invite all the neighbors in and,
I think, let's invite the same people, let's send a notification to the same people that we sent to about the public hearing for the church, for the planned development district changes that we made.
Do we, before we do any of that, do you want to have a conversation with Alex to see if there's going to be any issues? And if there are, if he sees this as no problem, if he's like, yeah, no issues, then we move to that next step.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, is sequencing, let's figure out the engineering. Can it work? We
yeah.
propose any ordinance changes, we do the public hearing, and then we go forward. Because you're not going to get out there and paint it right now anyway.
No, we've got some time. I guess I'm just trying to understand for sure what you guys want as next steps. I definitely will reach out to Alex, have a chat with him, maybe meet with him on site and kind of show him what we're looking at here and see, you know, if he sees potential issues and see where that goes.
I mean, Steve's here, I mean, what do you think? Because you're one of the building owners here.
Do we, since we're looking at this for this part of Clark, do we want to look at it for the south part of Clark, past Main Street?
I don't think it's wide enough for this. This is wider in here.
Okay.
You know, could be a future project, but as things are today,
Yeah, I just know that the businesses around there could use some parking spaces, so.
And this really wouldn't have any effect on how we plow snow. Right? We would do it in the same manner.
Yeah, I had the same question. I drove it this weekend to see, and it was pretty obvious. Yeah.
Look at that section of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's possible that that could be looked at once the sidewalks and the roads are fixed on that side, because that other side of Clark Street, other side of Main, is, the sidewalks look like a roller coaster.
And I believe now Clark is in our CIP towards the end, but it's an upcoming project.
Just a quick clarification, we talked about committee of the whole, you said public hearing. Would we want to do it as a committee of the whole, or do we want to do a formal public hearing on this?
Well, the only reason why I was saying public hearing is if you have to make an ordinance change. If you're going to do an ordinance change, we have to do a public hearing, right?
Depends on the section of the code. If it's a section related to zoning, we have to do a public hearing. There's nothing that would require a public hearing. And I kind of am thinking of it like we did the Village Square. We had a committee of the whole, invited people to just have an open-ended conversation with the board about it.
Yeah, then that cuts down on your administrative overhead for notification.
Yeah.
So, yeah, then I would say if when you guys review the ordinances, if it does not trigger a public hearing, then let's do a committee of the whole. Let's invite the same people we notified for the other public hearing, and we'll have a conversation, see what people think, especially these homeowners, and then you can tell us what you and Tim come up with in terms of what actually will work engineering-wise and what won't.
And surrounding business owners. Like, I don't know, does your brother rent from, Alex has a tenant, but he still has a separate business.
Yeah, but I don't think my brother's business would be impacted by those vehicles or by those spots. That might actually help him out a little bit.
Thanks to you and Tim for putting this together. So you'll come back when you guys are ready with that? Okay. All right. Ordinances resolution, ordinance 2025-01, recommendation from Plan Commission to amend Chapter 510 of the Village of East Troy Municipal Code relating to the 2931 Union Street Plan Development District, what we were just talking about.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2025-1.
Questions or discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Staff reports, item 1, municipal court for January. Thanks, Steve. Any questions about municipal court? Item 2, 2024 room tax report. Good to see that we are at our highest point.
Can we get another hotel?
That would be nice.
Skylark hasn't opened up again, so.
We're going to move on quickly. Item 3, 2024 chlorides report. Questions for Tom?
Hello again. Third view, and we've been through this before. It's part of our permit to operate. And part of that permit is SRM, source reduction measures. And this report kind of encompasses the last year, everything we've done to try to reduce chlorides, the things that we continue to do, and things we're going to do. So.
Any questions for Tom?
It's a pretty long report, so a lot
I
of
thought you were
data.
going to say it was a good-looking group.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to say it.
It's like they just got back from deer hunting. Can I ask a question? Just curious, on figure 2 on page 5, there's just a couple of anomalies on the report. And is that just something that's just happens once in a while? Or is that actually lower amounts of chloride?
Yeah, so when you see those anomalies like that, the general rule of thumb is that you kind of just throw those out. But when we're talking about something like that, there's a couple things that could happen for that. Our flows could be down or our flows could be up. And if our flows are up, then that would drive that concentration number down. So without having all the data right there, my assumption would be we were in a high flow event at that time.
Is this indicative to possible water softener usage in the village?
I believe they say something very specific about that, and I could get you those numbers, but yes, the majority of the chlorides coming to the wastewater treatment plant are from residential softeners. Yep. And I know that the numbers are in there. I don't know if we can do a control find on that, but
And then, just I guess for anybody listening at home or listening to the recording, there is a $100 grant offset for if you want to put in a new water softener with the village, right?
yes, please utilize it.
All right. Thanks, Tom.
Yep. Additionally, too, I just wanted to say, and it kind of ties into this, but Mike Miguel just completed his 7th year with the village on February 12th, so I just wanted to take the time to say that.
That's great. Thank you to Mike for his work for us.
Yep. Nothing? Good?
No, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Item 4, update on Highway 20 railroad crossing reconstruction timeline. Got another handout for us.
Yeah, so you all have the handout. The dates, the big dates to know there are the middle box, the May 19th through July 20th. That's the projected full closure for the reconstruction of the railroad crossing. All the work prior in April and May, in the first part of May, will be done under just lane closures. So full closures slated to start May 19. The actual project completion date is July 20th, so the hope is that this closure does not go that long, but as of right now, on paper, that's what they're saying.
Possibly then, Highway 20 be closed for 2 months.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Yep.
Not guaranteed.
And that reconstructs the track, the trolley wire, and the railroad crossing signals.
And it also
And the
said something
pavement,
about
of course.
underground, too?
Yeah, that's for all the signals. So,
Is there discussions about redirecting truck traffic so it's not going through the square?
Forty asked me earlier what the detour is, and I don't know what the detour is. I suspect the detour is going to be different than it was last year because various roads were closed under construction last year. But I can find out from the DOT. I would assume they have that information by now. And obviously, once we get it, we're going to share it on socials. I did confirm with DOT they're going to put out the portable message boards in advance of this so that everybody knows the closure is coming. Obviously, you know, they've been good about doing flyers, stuff like that. We'll share all that information when we get it. But when I have some info on a detour, I'll share that with you all.
Yeah, during that time, there's some pretty important stuff that's happening on the square, so.
Again, the hope is that that window is closed sooner than that, but we'll see.
So I would suspect we'd probably get a lot of truck traffic down Burns. Is that a problem?
Probably more of an issue with the turns that they have to make. I don't know where exactly they're going to close it, so.
Well, I know you're going to have a lot of trucks coming in from Whitewater on 20.
Yeah, and I'll get more information on the detour. I mean, they may do a full closure further west. I don't know. I guess that's what we have to find. You know, with limited access in the village, but truck traffic, you know, goes, and I'm just spitballing here, goes down Town Line or, you know, a Highway N again. I'm not sure.
They might send them down Bowers Road to the freeway and bring them back 20 the other way.
Very possible. So
Okay.
I'll share that info when I get it.
And I know we were talking, are they doing arms for the signals?
Yeah, so the state sent their ruling over on or their order essentially, and it did call out 4 gates and you know all the warning devices. So and I think it even had the overhead signals as well. So
All right. I don't know if you all know this, but Jason is chasing a lot of different organizations. This is unlike the rest of our Highway 20 stuff, where it's just working with the state. It's trying to work with the railroad and their contractors and the state. And so thanks for staying on top of that for us, Jason. All right, committee reports, CDA meeting minutes from November 25th. Any questions for Jim?
There was some signage, number one business signage in Alpine Valley property. And I guess you wanted signage to be able to direct people into the village, that's the way I'm understanding. And is there talk about putting a sign up by Highway D and 120 to bring them into the village?
No, the CDA primarily talked about bringing them in from Alpine Valley. So signage at Alpine Valley and then signage at Town Line Road and ES.
Right.
So if you go out to Alpine Valley today and you're exiting the property, there's like, I guess, I don't know if it was ever approved, but there was a set of signs there for different businesses. And so we explored that, trying to, update that. The problem is right-of-way and, working with the county and all that, so that didn't work. So with the signage that we're talking about doing is just going to be kind of wayfinding signage, similar to what we have around the square, but we're going to include distance markers on there. And that's going to actually be on Alpine Valley's property. So we don't have to deal with the county and right-of-way and all that, so.
It used to be the Katzman Farm over on the corner there. I don't know who owns it now, but
Yeah, and that was part of the other problem. The other piece is that then we also didn't want to get into favoritism of any one business that might or might not be, indicated there. So the sign is similar. It's like this way to museums, downtown, this way, that kind of direction, yeah.
especially, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about people who really aren't from the area that don't know.
Again, too, it's 2025. A lot of people are looking on this to know where to go. So, but I think it is a nice touch. And then there will be another sign when you get to ES that's there at the old Associated Bank. Since that's in the village, we could put it in that right of way, and it would direct people east on ES.
If the county gives us right-of-way approval.
Sorry, yes, if the county gives us right of way approval. Okay, no other questions? Item 2, Plan Commission draft minutes from February 10th. The main piece we approved just now. Any questions for 40? Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn to closed session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 1985E for the purpose of deliberating and negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or the conducting of other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Cemetery and TID 4 development agreement.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
President Johnson?
Yes.
Trustee Holm?
Yes.
Trustee Nugent?
Yes.
Trustee Renucci?
Yes.
Trustee Smalling?
Yes.